everyone, this is DXbrief, the first podcast by Devexperts. As you may know, we've been in the capital markets for the past 24 years. I'm your host, Alex Mamalev. I am the head of sales of Devexperts. Today we're going to address the elephant in the room together with Ivan. Ivan is the head of AI products. He's a product owner of our AI initiatives at Devexperts. So we'll be talking about how to handle AI in trading, what do brokers need to watch about, what do technology providers need to know when providing AI services to their clients. Ivan, how are you doing? Good to have you here.
Hi Alex, glad to be here, and it's great to get to talk, however briefly, about what's actually happening behind the scenes. Because there's a lot that's being sold out there as magic.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it. You talk to brokers and technical providers every single day. What is the difference between AI ready, AI wannabe, and the entire buzz that's happening in the industry right now?
I think there are representatives of both groups. Some of them are just trying to get into it. Some of them are choosing to ignore it, and others are rushing in. It's interesting, some clients come to us asking if we have AI, just like that, without any context. On the other hand, some other clients ask if our services, the services that we deliver, are ready for being used by their AI agents. So, different kinds of potential clients, and I think the majority still sits right in the middle. They understand what it is and how to benefit from it, but they don't do it themselves because they choose, buy versus build, for example.
Okay, so any consequences if you choose to ignore it, for example?
Of course, and ignoring it's rather simple. So you'll probably just lose to someone who found a way to benefit their core business with AI. I mean, in your niche, you'll probably just lose it to them. And if, for example, on the opposite, you rush into the development, right, without a proper strategy, it's a whole different story. So, for example, it's an obvious money pit. So you can overspend on something that will probably not see the light of day, or you can break your user's trust, and you can deliver just some hallucinating assistant that acts more of an obstacle to the end user, and then you'll struggle to get that trust back. And regulation, obviously, AI in finance, it comes with pretty tight compliance requirements. And if, for example, you spend money trying to develop something without looking back to comply with the regulations, you can end up in a situation when, for example, you cannot use some data and suddenly your product becomes less profitable.
Of course. Okay, so 3 takeaways from what you just said. Money pit, spending your money where you shouldn't, and nothing comes out of it. Second, trust. Once you lose your clients, getting them back is a lot harder. Third, regulation. You can't just, deploy AI whenever you like, wherever you like.
You need to take that into account right at the beginning.
All right, so we already have some clients where we offer AI services, if you like, right? Without, of course, mentioning any names, can you give us a couple of examples?
Let me start high level. So what we found out for ourselves, right, is that we should not only follow the latest trends and utilize the latest technology like AI agents, MCP servers, and whatever. We found that it's better for us to utilize what we already have, like the data that we have, in-house machine learning models, and data analysis expertise, and combine it with this latest technology, right? Because this way, the services that we deliver, they reinforce one another, which brings more value to us. That's what we found out. If we were to get more specific, right? For example, user retention. It is a very important matter for our clients to retain as many users as possible, and that is why we delivered at first a service that detects early signs of disengagements in users, right? and helps the broker then to use this information to retain them. However, on itself, detecting this disengagement is only part of the equation. So you need also to know how to retain them. That is why with time we started delivering more services that are centered around user profiling and user retention.
Okay.
And that made the overall offering more well-rounded, because all services, every one of them, they reinforce one another.
All right. Oh, cool. Now, I'm sure you've had some of these cases that in the beginning they sounded great on paper, and in reality it was a completely different story. I'm sure you had cases like this. Can you share a couple?
Well, there are certainly situations where, for example, some trading robots or sentiment analysis models, they went nuts and lost a ton of money. But then again, I'd rather discuss something that you won't probably read in a news digest. With user retention, again, getting back to it since we started it, I think business people understand it really well right now, so they play around with metrics, like they understand their customer acquisition costs, their lifetime value, and they can figure out that it's probably making sense for them to invest into the development of a solution that would solve this charm problem for them. And they might even succeed. They might develop a good model and then wrap it in a nice service. However, if in the beginning, for example, they were to spend a little more time with data and playing around with the data and experiment with it, they might have found out that for the number of users that they have specifically, they could have just treated everyone as if they were likely to leave and apply their preventive measures to everyone, whatever this is.
Right.
It would be a little less effective per user, but it would pay out much faster just because you didn't spend a lot of money on the development. And these situations, they happen a lot more than you think.
Yeah, an interesting question would be for brokers and banks that have extensive IT teams that stand behind their brokerage arm. What is it? How do they apply AI, or do they, or should they?
Well, AI technology, well, it's proving to be beneficial for a lot of different downstream tasks. So I think, yeah, they certainly should. And there are probably people out there that don't want to start applying the tools because, in the fear of losing their jobs, right? But I think, as with the vendors and brokers, for example, and banks, it is important to follow the trend to actually adapt to the changes out there in the market, because if you don't, you end up in a situation when you will be just obliterated by the companies that actually become AI first.
Of course. So, is there any advice to any of the brokers or banks out there? What should they look out for when selecting their partner? Not only for technology, but also for AI provisions.
Okay. Well, as a product owner, I want to say, like, start small, move incrementally, and stuff like that. But since we're talking about partners and choosing the right partner, I'd say that for me, it is important to see that a person spends more time listening and asking questions than they spend on, showcasing their solutions and showing their presentations and so on and so forth. That would be it.
Okay. All right, good. And lastly, what does it mean for us, technology providers, in the industry? Where are we? Are we there? Are we offering really something that we have? Are we just responding to clients' requests simply because we have to?
Well, as we've discussed, I think for us as a vendor, it is really important not only to comply, to adapt to these new trends and to optimize our internal processes, to actually stay relevant, but we also need to update our product offerings to react to what's happening on the market. So we need to work with both sides of the
Thank you, everyone. This was all from us. If you need any advice on AI or any technology regarding brokerages and trading, don't hesitate to reach out to Ivan or myself. We'll be there to help you. Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you for having me.